Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Canada once again and we're going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel a couple of times before, albeit the home brewery a little bit more often than the away brewery in this case. But both of these breweries are relatively new additions to the local beer scenes. They've built up very good reputations for themselves though, and if people were to ask me about the home brewery, I would say that they're best known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs, although they have been diversifying a little bit stylistically in recent times, which has been interesting to see. Whereas the away brewery, I think, are best known for their different kinds of fruity, juicy, smoothie, Nordic, whatever we're going to call them, sour beers, but they're apparently very good at New England hazy IPAs as well. And the last beer that I tried from them was a big dark beer, which I was really impressed with too. So maybe it's right to describe them as being really well-rounded. But regardless, both very well-respected breweries. The beer that we're going to have a look at today is a style that I really quite enjoy, one that is very popular at the moment, of course. It's one of the home brewery's latest releases through Hong Kong. And it is supposed to be very, very good, this one. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review. And as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, for the home side of things, we are going to head to Canada, like I said. We're going to go to the province of Quebec, the city of Montreal, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Messorem Bractorium. So this particular beer is called the Reaper. I should also point out that this is version 3 of the Reaper. It comes in at 8.1% ABV and it's a New England hazy, Imperial double, whatever you want to call it, IPA, brewed in collaboration with Bellwoods Brewery, who are from over the border in Ontario in Toronto. So yeah, this should be really quite interesting. This is another beer that I picked up at Angry Beer in Mongkok here in Kowloon in Hong Kong, and you know, they always get a good selection of the Messorem stuff. Actually, there's always a few interesting modern beers, if you like, and old school Belgian things in there, so do make sure you check them out if you make it over here to Hong Kong. I'll try to remember to put the link to their shop in the video description below. But yeah, definitely cool to see Bellwoods and Messorem collaborate together as well, two very well respected breweries in that eastern part of Canada. So let's crack on with this one then and see what it's going to have in store for us. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Messorem Bractorium, and another link to the ones from Bellwoods Brewery. Hopefully we can add more to both of those lists at some point in the near future, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Canadian playlist along with a number of other things that's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, but quite often, because we do get a good selection of Canadian beers in Hong Kong, which I'm very happy about. But do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. And if you're particularly interested in Canadian beer, then do make sure you check out some of my Canadian beer tubing colleagues, the likes of Lee Russell, Off the 10th, Redbeard. All of these guys are doing some very nice videos these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about the breweries. We'll start off with Messorem Bractorium, since they are the home brewery in this case. So Messorem, as I've told you already, are based in Montreal in the province of Quebec, and the three men behind this company are Marc-André Fillon, Sébastien Chaput, and Vincent Menard, and these guys met in the underground music scene in the city during the early 2000s. So Sebastian is a guitarist and he plays for the metal band Iron Dissonance, who have played all over the world, but he more recently studied business management and finance, and he takes care of the business side of the company. Vincent, on the other hand, was a drummer for another metal band called Last Felony, and he was an avid home brewer for years before he went to study brewing formally, and then he interned at Oval Brewing and Pit Caribou before going on to work for for Les Trois Mousquetaires for 2 years. But he now takes care of the brewing side of the business, and then we've got Marc-Andre, who was the singer of Orphans in Coma and Here Comes the Hurricane, but more recently he's been rapping with La Carabine. But he studied design, and marketing before working in the field professionally, and he's the man behind the branding and the artwork of Messorem, which is quite distinctive, I have to say. But back in 2015, these three guys would meet every Friday in a group of friends to do beer tastings and try rare beers from across the world. But this got them wondering about how they could satisfy their desire for such, big, bold, flavoured beers without having to bring back only very small amounts. And this got them thinking that they should start their own microbrewery and brew this kind of beer. So Marc-Andre's father, Christian, was really impressed by the group's tenacity at trying to get this project off the ground, and so he spoke to his friend Francois Garot, who helped the company find their current home on Lachine Canal on Pitt Street. But Christian had worked in pharma while Francois had been a professor of mathematics and also worked in real estate on the side. But when they were getting the company off the ground, these two joined it. But the name Messorem Bractorium is taken from Latin, and it translates into English as the Brewery of the Reaper, which is quite cool. But the brewery opened its doors to the public in August of 2019, and they've got a tap room on site with a terrace and capacity for 250 people. But they collaborate with Mitch Daly, who run the kitchen, and they serve all sorts of dishes. It's always quite an interesting menu when you go and check out what's on the website at Messorem. But over the years, this brewery have become really well known for their IPAs. Their sour beers are supposed to be very good as well. I haven't tried any of those yet, but as of September 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 600 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and that number will no doubt continue to increase as time goes on. But yeah, that's everything I can really tell you about Messorem Bractorium for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. But yeah, let's go on to the brewery notes then for Bellwoods Brewery. So we're moving over to Toronto in Ontario there. So yeah, Bellwoods Brewery, as I've just said, are based in Toronto, Ontario, over in Canada, and the company was founded back in 2011 by Luke Pestle and Mike Clark. So Luke has a background in biochemical engineering, and he previously worked for Amsterdam Brewing in the city, while Mike was also a brewer at Amsterdam, but apparently they started home brewing together during their time working there, and they would very often go down to the US on craft beer runs. But apparently they were both inspired to start Bellwoods because nobody in Toronto was brewing the really hoppy or bready beers at the time. So they took over an old car repair garage on Ossington Avenue in the Little Portugal area in the south of the city, and they named the brewery Bellwoods after the nearby Trinity Bellwoods Park. But around the time they started, they also started the City Hops project, and they were growing hops on rooftops and other locations across Toronto, including Cascade and Chinook varieties, which proved to grow very well from what I understand. And then they opened up the brew pub to the public in 2012 and gradually expanded the brewing capacity and added a bottle shop. A few years later in 2016, they opened up a second brewery on Halfish Road in the North York area to give them a bigger production volume, and this location has also given them the space to do a lot more barrel aging. This site has its own tap room as well, and the total yearly output of the brewery these days is over 1 million litres from what I understand. But as of September 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 410 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And like I said to you, for me, the first time I heard about Bellwoods was with their kind of fruity, smoothie, sour beers, but apparently they're very good at the New England hazies as well, so I need to try one of their own ones at some point. But yeah, I was very impressed with the Imperial Stout that I had from these guys quite recently too. But yeah, a very well respected Toronto craft brewery these days, and one that I do hope I can go and visit and film an out and about video at some point fairly soon. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Messorem Bractorium and Bellwoods Brewery for the moment. For Bellwoods, if you do want to learn more, make sure you check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a little look at this beer itself. So this one if I remember correctly, is a 473 milliliter can, which is 1 American pint, of course. The artwork on this one, I have to say, I really like. This one kind of stood out to me because it reminded me a little bit of Sons of Anarchy. I love Sons of Anarchy. But yeah, plain silver top on the can there. On the back side, you can see both the Messorem and the Bellwoods Brewery symbols. But yeah, I have to say that artwork is very nice. As I mentioned earlier, this one comes in at 8.1% ABV. It's a New England Hazy, Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. This one is hopped with Mosaic, Galaxy and Racal. So we know all of these hops fairly well. So Mosaic is an American hop, 14% alpha acid. It's got that slightly earthy component, quite distinctive earthy component in its green component, but it gives you quite a lot of kind of tangerine-y, orangey notes. Galaxy is an Australian hop, 14% alpha acid once again. It's quite known for its tropical notes. Quite a lot of ripe, juicy mango comes out of it, quite a bit of pineapple as well, but also a fair little bit of grapefruit at times. And then Racal is an interesting one, New Zealand hop, 11% alpha acid. Susceptible to a bit of mildew from what I remember. It's quite a hard hop to get a good yield from, but it's known for giving you a lot of apricot-y character, which is always cool. But yeah, I think we can go on and get this guy open and see what it's all about. So the Reaper version 3, New England Hazy, Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA, from Messorem Bractorium in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, in collaboration with Bellwoods Brewery from Toronto, Ontario, over in Canada. Let's see what this guy has in store for us. My very first taste of a hazy involving Bellwoods, of course, as well. So I think that will do for looking at the appearance of the beer at the moment of things. But yeah, that's that. So yeah, I have to say it looks pretty good. So we've got about maybe 75% of the beer out and into the glass at the moment, but you can see this guy poured with maybe a little bit more than a 3/4 finger of a frothy, I would say, kind of cream coloured head there. You can see the you can see the small bubbles sitting on the surface of the liquid there. As you go further up, it's got quite a more kind of bubbly head in there, which is quite nice. But yeah, in terms of the colour of this one, I have to say it's actually one of the kind of paler New Englands that I've come across over the last wee while, come to think of it. It kind of reminds me a little bit more of a kind of pineapple juice rather than anything else. I always like comparing the appearance of New England hazies to different fruit juices because that's just what they remind me of. But remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is going to play a role because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But you don't have to care about all that often when it comes to different kinds of IPAs, of course. We don't really tend to put adjuncts in those or do barrel aging and stuff like that. But yeah, the level of haze on this one as well for an 8.1%er, I have to say, this is one of the soupier and gloopier ones that I've come across in recent times, and you can actually feel the density of this beer quite a bit, I have to say. This is one of the denser New Englands I think I've come across too. But yeah, level of haze in this one is interesting. Remember, that depends on the oat content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. And that can vary from brewery to brewery, beer to beer, and so on. But yeah, this is definitely one of the paler New Englands that I've come across in recent times, for sure, and one of the more soupy and gloopy ones. But yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this beer. You can see the head has faded away a little bit, and you've just got that nice kind of foamy ring around the edge of the glass too. But all in all, I think it looks really, really nice, this one, and it gets a big thumbs up from me appearance wise. Nothing else we really need to say about that. Let's go on and have a little look at the aroma of this beer then. Ooh, that's interesting. That's got quite a bit of good balance to it actually. Comes across as very, very soft and very kind of juicy actually. So yeah, very kind of soft, very kind of juicy, nice kind of bright green component to it as well. But yeah, like all in all, it's yeah, all in all, the aroma, this one is really, really quite nice. So, as I've said on the channel many a time, for me there are 6 elements to think about when it comes to the malty and yeasty side of your New England IPA. So for me, there is the kind of farmhousey, yeasty side of things, and the rye leaning grainy side as well. Those are a bit more common in New England brewed New England IPAs, like the more OG ones, because the beer really did start as a farmhouse IPA in all honesty. But then you have the wheaty bitiness, the oaty creaminess, the barley malt bread, and also the sweeter side of things. And that's really the direction that the style's moved in as it's evolved over time. So for me, this beer actually comes across as being quite oaty leaning, but I'm also getting a good little bit of wheat out of it at the back of the nose. So getting a lot of oats out of this one. Quite a dense bready character as well. Yeah, quite a dense bready character. And I'd say it's quite well balanced between those 3. There's not too much sweetness to it either. But yeah, all in all, the way that goes together is nice. Let's just break the aroma down then and describe it for you a little bit more in depth. So the backbone of the beer, you've got that lovely, fresh, kind of white bready backbone to this one. The fresh white bready bread crust in there. There's a wee bit of woodiness coming out of it as well, of course. Good little bit of cracker. So yeah, a little bit of woodiness, good little bit of cracker. White bready bread crust, like I said. There's maybe a tiny little hint of like a wholemeal brown bread in this one, but that's tiny, I emphasise that. Lots of fluffy, fresh white bread in there. You can certainly smell a more dense, wheaty white bread as well, particularly a little bit of bitiness at the back of the nose. So a little bit of bitiness in there is good. Yeah, a little bit of bitiness at the back of the nose. Nice little bit of oaty, creamy character in there as well. Yeah, the oatiness in this one's actually really, really quite nice as well, I have to say. So, yeah, I'm not sure exactly how old this beer is, I really don't know. But with oatiness, as I've often said, oatiness can be a kind of rough guide of how fresh your New England IPA is. Essentially, the creamier the oats are, the fresher the beer is, the drier they are, the older it is. But you do have to remember as well that, for example, European oats are a bit more creamy than North American oats. The North American oats are a little bit more porridgey, so that's the kind of thing here. The oats that I'm getting out of this one, though, are kind of creamy, but they're starting to show a bit of dryness, and usually that happens after about 2 months or so, I would say. But I don't think this beer is that old. I think this is a pretty damn new one here in Hong Kong. So, and we always get these quite fresh actually. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. But yeah, on top of the oaty side of things, there's a little touch of sweetness in there. You can pick out a little touch of that kind of Skittles aroma. And you can that quite often you get in these beers, and there is also a little bit of like a Werther's Original butter candy note out of this one, but not too much, I would say. But yeah, the yeasty character at the back of the nose there is like more kind of white bready leaning, bit of sweet white bread, a little bit of cracker and so on. And yeah, your hoppy side of things in this one's quite interesting. So yeah, remember when it comes to hopping IPAs, there are 3 kinds of hopping that you can do. Early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour of the wort boil, that gives you mainly bitterness and a deeper, danker aroma. You've got late addition hopping, which takes place within the last half hour of the wort boil. That gives you a little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour aroma, but it gives you a brighter green component. And then you've got the dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, and that is all about the flavour and aroma, but yeah, again, very bright green component there. So yeah, for me, the hoppy character in this one, it's nice and bright and smooth, but there's a bit of incognito in this one. I think it's mosaic. Is it mosaic incognito? Yeah, so the incognito kind of smoothens out your green component a little bit. But New England IPAs tend to rely on late addition and dry hopping, which is why they're kind of brighter and juicier, whereas West Coast IPAs use all 3, which is why they've got that deeper, danker character to them. But with this one, in the green component, you can definitely smell that little touch of earthiness from the mosaic, quite a lot of floral character as well from all of the hops in this one pretty much. and you've got that brighter kind of grassiness in there as well. So these are things you'd expect from any New England Hazy IPA, in all honesty. But yeah, I don't think we need to say too much more about the green component. Let's round off the aroma then with a wee quick look at the fruits. So for me, the fruity side of this one's actually really quite soft in a lot of ways. So I'm getting a lot of kind of passion fruit out of this one. There is juicy mango in there, apricots for sure. That's going to be the Racal that gives you that in this one. I always say Racal. But yeah. So you have yeah, apricots, papaya, pineapple for sure. Then yeah, backed up by a little bit of juicy mango and passion fruit and stuff. And yeah, I can definitely get that nice kind of tangerine orangey note from the mosaic in this one. So yeah, the way all of that goes together in this beer, I think is really, really damn nice. So it gets a big, big thumbs up from me. Beautiful, beautiful aroma in this one. So yeah, it's awesome. It's really, really nice. So yeah, as I always say, take a bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think this is going to be pretty damn good. So let's get stuck in. So this one is the Reaper version 3 New England Hazy Imperial Double, if you want to call it IPA, 8.1% ABV, brewed by Messorem Bractorium in Montreal, Quebec, in collaboration with Bellwoods Brewery from Toronto, Ontario. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers, santé. Ooh, that is good. Yeah, very smooth, juicy, but definitely a thicker New England IPA, this one, in comparison with some of the other ones I've had from Messorem. This one definitely has a bit more density to it, but another great, great beer from Messorem. Yeah, very happy with this one. Yeah, if you get the chance to try this, you should. Two very good breweries in this particular style category. But yeah, it gives you kind of everything you'd expect from the style, particularly, you know, if you know Messorem. For me, Messorem's IPAs always tend to be like really smooth and slightly dry and drinkable. But yeah, this one just feels like it's got that little bit more density to it, and it's got a wee bit more of a kind of wheaty bitiness into the aftertaste too, but very, very good, as I would expect. So, yeah, let's break this down then. So, middle third of your palate, the backbone of the beer, fresh white bready bread crust as you would expect. Further forward on that, yeah, further forward on that middle third of your palate, you get that little bit of woodiness in there, and you can feel the wee touch of like Jacob's cream cracker just coming out on top of that too. So yeah, fresh white bready bread crust in there, Jacob's cream cracker, a little bit of wood, then on top of that you start to get the bread. As I was suspecting from the aroma, there is just a little touch, there is a slight layer of like a slightly more grainy kind of farmhousey brown bread in the base there. It must be one of the malts that Messorem like to use that does that. The beers often have just that little touch of brown bread to them. But then above that, you've got this big kind of fluffy, airy, yeah, this big fluffy, airy, white bready character coming out of this one. So yeah, the way that that goes together, I think, is really, really nice. Yeah, so the way that that goes together is really, really nice. The bready character in this one's great. then above the fluffy white bready layer, you get the more dense wheaty white bready layer out of this one. So yeah, you've got that nice dense, that nice dense wheaty white bready layer in there, and further back on the palate, of course, it's got that wee bit of bitiness in there. So lovely smooth wheaty notes in there, and the on top of that, you're starting to get the oats as well. So down the middle line of your palate, you can feel that nice creamy oaty character there. And as you go out toward the edges, of that middle third of your palate, it's got a wee bit of a drier oatiness to it, which I think is really, really nice. But yeah, in the dead centre of your palate, you can feel there's that little circle there where you get the Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy notes, and that is of course the kind of boozier part of the beer. And there's maybe just a little bit of biscuit sprinkled around the kind of that centre of the palate, and there's a little touch of that, especially on the back half of that middle third of the palate. There's this little bit of a Skittles type flavour coming out of this one, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I think we've said everything we need to about the middle third of the palate then. So remember, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. And yeah, the back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate. So yeah, just different intensities. But yeah, border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there again. There's the brown bread in the base, the white bread on top of that, then the more dense wheaty character in there. But then yeah, the base of that the base of that back third of your palate, the base of the back third of your palate, you've got some nice kind of the white bready bread crust again. You get more of the cracker as well. The cracker's definitely more evident there. But then yeah, above that you can feel the brown bready layer, which was a little bit lighter, taller and more airy. Then above that you've got the you have the white bready layer, which again feels a little bit lighter, taller, more airy, but slightly drier. Then you've got the wheaty notes just kind of sitting above that, which are definitely a little bit more kind of dense and kind of really dense white bread with just that little bit of bitiness to it. And then above all of that, you have more of the the yeasty character coming out of this one, which I do quite like. So, the yeasty side of this beer then. The wholemeal brown bread. There's a little bit like a wholemeal brown bready character at the centre, then a more fluffy white bready character around the edge, and then yeah, McVitie, like more of a kind of bread crusty note around the edge. So yeah, definitely all of that sits on top of the all of that. The yeasty character in this one sits on top of that back third of your palate, and definitely yeah, back third of your palate the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, malty yeasty side of this one is quite nice. On the hoppy side of things then, let's move to the green component. This beer actually does show you a little bit more bitterness the further into the aftertaste that you go. It does have a little bit of lingering bitterness there. But yeah, in the back corners of the palate, you've got that nice little bit of earthiness in there. Then as you move further forward, it's a little tiny touch herbal, but I can feel there's a wee bit of piney resin and dankness on the sides of the palate there. And as you move further forward, it gets a little bit more kind of floral and spicy and aromatic as you reach the front corners of your palate. But round the front curve of the tongue, the beer is definitely a little bit more light and grassy, I would say. So yeah, the green component does show you a little bit more bitterness into the aftertaste. Let's round off the flavour part of the video then with a look at the front third of your palate. So yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. You can feel the brown bread in the base, the white bread in the middle, and the more bitey yeah, the more bitey, wheaty character on top of that, which is nice. And then yeah, the base of the front 30 pallets, the white bready bread crust, the cracker, a little bit of the brown bread, the white bread, and then the nice smoother side of the wheat, and then above that you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters are just rolling their way out of the beer. So for me, the fruity side of this beer, it's yeah, it's kind of interesting how that goes together. And the oily bubble at the back of that front third of your palate, there's maybe a teeny little touch of grapefruit, which is going to be the Galaxy. The Galaxy is the one that's going to give you that. But as you move further forward, you get lots and lots of juicy kind of ripe mango. There's a softer passion fruit in there, but as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, it's all about the apricot, and that's the Racal that's going to give you that. But then into the front half of the front third of your palate, yeah, it's all about that tangerine orange from the Mosaic. So yeah, it's quite straightforward in its fruity character, this one, but as I say, compared to the other Messorems that I've had in recent times, this one just feels a little bit more dense, and it's got a little bit more punch to it and things. So yeah, I like that, and I like the fact that this one is just that little bit different. So yeah, gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I like that with this one for sure. So, yeah, the way that this one goes together, I think, is really, really nice. Big thumbs up to both breweries on this. Potentially one of my favourite Messorems that I've had, come to think of it. But yeah, so for me, mouthfeel wise then, just to round off this review, for me this beer is kind of, I would say, top end to mid bodied. I don't know if I would kind of put it in the full bodied category, maybe yeah, bottom end to full bodied. The carbonation is quite smooth. This beer does have a little bit of bite to it and a wee bit of dryness into the aftertaste, right enough. The IBU count, I want to say this one's slightly higher. I want to say this is maybe about 50-ish IBUs rather than kind of 40, which I think is a fair standard for New England New England doubles. I would say, if 30 for the singles, 40 for the doubles is usually about the case. But I feel this one's just got a little touch more bitterness to it. But yeah, the malt base has that nice little bit of graininess underneath, the malty character in the middle, wee bit of smoothness on top, and a little touch of sweetness to it. Yeah, the malt base is kind of what you expect. The yeastiness gives you a wee bit of dryness into the aftertaste too. You've got that 40-50 IBU kind of part in this one, and the fruity notes for me, really nice and juicy, kind of tropical leaning, but it gets a wee bit more citrusy into the aftertaste, I would say. But all in all, pardon me, a really, really nice New England double, this one, and I'm going to enjoy finishing this one off. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This was the Reaper version 3, a New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Messorem Bractorium in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, in collaboration with Bellwoods Brewery from over the border in Toronto in Ontario. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Messorem and from Bellwoods, and we will see about returning to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But a really nice, kind of more oaty and wheaty heavy New England IPA, this one, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. But yeah, slàinte, skål, cheers, and catch you guys in the next review. Ciao just now.